Hello, guys. It's Conversations with Matthew and Sarah again. How you doing, Matthew?
Doing good. How
All
are
right.
you?
I am doing great. Thank you so much for my gift that you gave me. It's this thing that he bought in Walmart called Muscle Hook.
Ooh,
And
it looks like weird.
this is really good. It's like really getting at the nuts in my back,
Looks
so
like
I
a
really
shepherd's hook.
appreciated that. Yeah. So thank you, baby. I really appreciate it. And yeah, in thinking about what to highlight in this episode, we just finished watching the episode of Candace Owens coming back from maternity leave after having her third child. Shout out to Candace. Absolutely love her show. And she got into a really great topic about quote unquote friends. And I don't want to make this about her and what she described. You can go watch her channel. It's fantastic. But I did want to talk about, what really are friends and
What is the definition of friends?
what's the
'Cause
definition
we
of
had
a
that
friend?
discussion.
Yeah, what's the definition of a friend? And
Because my definition and your definition are two totally different.
I mean, they
things.
might be. I
Yeah.
don't know that I'm totally clear on that.
So
But
what is your definition of a friend?
So, it's hard. I could look at the dictionary, but it's probably just easier to go with personal experience. And so a friend to me is somebody that I don't know, you have a history with, you can talk about almost anything with. You can confide in them. You can be vulnerable in front of them. You can trust them. You know that they would never betray you. That they have your back, even when you're not around. If somebody's talking about you, I don't necessarily believe in the types of friendships where it's like, oh, if I have an enemy, that has to be your enemy too. I don't necessarily believe that for friendship. I do kind of believe that when it comes to a relationship, but that's like a topic for another day. Like I wouldn't want to have an enemy that you're friends with.
No.
And that's a totally different thing, I think, from a personal relationship standpoint. But I don't necessarily think it's right to put that burden on a friend. Yeah, I think it's somebody that I can call. At the same time, we just finished talking about how I've had the same friend who's been a sibling to me for over 30 years. And we probably talk, I mean, we're lucky if we talk twice a year. But I know that if something were to go down, I know that if something really serious happened, I can count on my best friend. I can count on my brother, which is probably going to raise some red flags for some people because of the opposite sex friendship thing that we can get into. But in my case, I have had the same friend who's been a brother to me for over 30 years. And I understand the controversy behind all of that. His wife is also my best friend. I'm very fortunate that we all grew up together because I know that once they got together, if she would have decided that she didn't want me in the picture, she would have had her right to do that. She would have been within her right to do that, and I would have respectfully departed. But yeah, I know that he's my friend, and I know that we can count on each other. And I've even asked him to walk me down the aisle at our wedding. So, yeah, I don't know. What's your definition of a friend?
That's a tough one because I mean, earlier I said, somebody that's there for you, with you through hard times. But it's hard to define a friend because a friend, you have different kinds of friends. You have different kinds of stages. I remember back in elementary school, I had a friend. We were BFLs until he moved away. And we were inseparable. So, that was my friend for the end. We had the same interests. We played on the playground together. We played basketball together. And then, when he moved away, I got another friend I played basketball with. We did science projects together, So I don't know. I mean, my friends have always kind of transitioned to the period of life I'm in. And I know we were talking about work
That's a
friends.
good point. Yeah.
But I do have a group of friends. Like you, I have a group of friends. There's I don't know how many of us are there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of us. Six of us. 7 counting me. We went to church together in our early 20s. We're still friends. We get together anytime I go back to Georgia.
And most of them are girls, right? Most of them.
There's 4 girls and then me, the 2 Matthews.
Yeah.
We're the bookends. We
Yeah,
say.
you're Matthew
Yeah,
and then the other
the
Matthew.
other
Yeah,
Matthew.
exactly. Because I met your friends and they're all fantastic. And I remember that one of your friends asked me at the restaurant where we had dinner, she was like, so you don't mind that he has female friends? And I was like, no, precisely because I know what it's like to have a male friend who's strictly a friend. I'm not one of these people that plays this game of like, oh yeah, we used to date and, you know, we slept together and now we're like brother and sister. I don't play that mess. I'm not friends with anybody that I've had any type of anything with. And I think that is the best way to be, or at least that's just how I prefer it. And I know that you prefer it the same way. And so, yeah, I think that it is possible, just kind of getting into the topic of exes, it is possible to be friends with an ex. However, once a relationship is established, I 100% absolutely refuse to die on the hill of defending a friendship with a member of the opposite sex that's my ex-boyfriend. I refuse to do it.
Agreed.
I remember I had a conversation with another person that was a friend of mine that's no longer a friend of mine, but she and I were having a disagreement because she was like, oh, well, you know, any man that you're with should understand that this person was there before and you guys share a special connection. And I'm like, look, I can understand that as a woman, in particular a modern woman, might have that point of view, but I 100% respect that most men do not have that point of view, and it's just never something that I would get into an argument about, you know? Like, I guess you go through your mourning period where it's like, hey, you know, you and I can no longer be friends and it's kind of sad, whatever, but you know what, it's time to move on. I have a man now. I have a man and I do not need to be friends with ex-boyfriends, period.
I guess that's the question. Can you be friends with somebody you've had an intimate relationship with? I've never been friends with anybody after we've broken up, split up, whatever up you want to call it. But I've never saw the need. I have a. This is going to sound pretty evil, but I have a tendency of out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
I don't see you. I don't think about you. So that would be the question I guess we should ask if anybody watches this video. Is in the comments, shoot us out. Do you think you could be friends with somebody you've had an intimate relationship with?
And
can you go from intimate to friend without there ever being that little bit of...
You know what? I think it's much easier for women to do it because with men, and I've heard this in so many places, within like the Manosphere podcast that talks about, oh, your guy friend wants to sleep with you, you know? And so I think it's easy for women to be friends. And if they were to kind of push the envelope and be like, hey, you know, should we try or should we this? The man would more than likely say yes. Yeah. So I think in that regard, probably for a woman, yes. For a man, not so much, unless you're in a specific scenario, right? Like with my brother, you know, he's married to my best friend. He's been in love with her since we were kids. You know, I remember when I was a teenager, I dated his best friend. So, I mean, it was just, God just made it so that this person and I really were like brother and sister because of the dynamics of everything that was surrounding us. But I think by and large, it would be easier for women, but definitely not for men, and understandably so.
That's a good question, though. I mean, have to get feedback on that. Do you think a man or a woman can be friends with somebody they've been intimate with? Second homework question out there in YouTube land is, what is your definition of a friend?
Yeah.
You mean, you know, you have your lifelong friends, you have your coworker friends, you have your school friends. Very few people that I know a few people that have been friends with people that were in school. You're one of those.
Yeah. That
you went to school with and stuff. But I don't talk to anybody I went to school with.
Yeah.
I would not consider them friends. I mean, if I ran into them at Walmart, I would say, hey. Same thing with my work friends. I had some work friends that were like family at a company I previously worked at for 19 years. And when I left that company, I don't talk to them.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think another thing I want to pose is there's a really popular app called Meetup, and it is a great place to meet people. You know, that's the whole purpose of it. I had joined a group there and I hung out with these people for like over a year. And so I thought we were friends. I thought that everything was all good, but then I realized one day that unrealistic expectations were being placed on me. And so when I realized that the unrealistic expectation was being placed, that it was really easy for me to let them go. And the way that the interaction basically went, it was like I let them go, I left the group, and then somebody made a comment, which I think is fair. He and his wife, I thought we got along great. I thought they were wonderful people. I actually still do. I just think that, we disagree and we're just not meant to be in each other's lives. It's kind of one of those things that everybody's in your life for a season. So, their season in my life is over. But he made a comment where he was like, oh, if it was so easy for you to leave the friendship, then it must have not been that important, or it must have not been real. And you know what? He's probably right. Because when I think about if I would have had a similar situation with other people that I've had more of a connection with on a friendship level, I probably would have gone out of my way to be like, hey, you're placing this unrealistic expectation on me. I'd really like us to talk about it on the phone because I want to understand where you're coming from. I love you as a person, and you're important to my life. That's the way that I would have handled a situation, like if it would have been somebody else that was more important to me. But because it was these people, and even though we hung out for over a year, we would only see each other a couple of times a month, and it was always based on what was going on in the meetup group. I didn't really feel like such a close connection with them, so it was just easy to let them go.
Maybe we throw the word friend around too much. Once we define it, maybe acquaintances is what most people are in our lives. Work
Maybe.
acquaintances, school acquaintances. But I think, I don't know, I think people, just because you're friends with people, and again, another homework question, YouTube lad, do you think you have to be friends with people for life? If you're friends with them, I think people, like you said, are for a season. You're friends with people. A lot of times when you're single, you're friends with people. They're your family. They're your relationships.
True.
But then when you get in a relationship, you got to lose your friendships because you're spending all your time in your significant other relationship. You're growing your family. You're having kids. You're doing that kind of thing. I mean, even me and my church friends. I mean, we all kind of got married at the same time. Started spitting out kids and things. So there was years there where we didn't hang out. We didn't talk. Now that our kids are older, we're starting to hang out again. But there was a 10, 15-year window there where we didn't talk other than on Facebook or in passing, or we never hung out.
I think you're right, Matthew, but I will say I think there's an extra variable that should be considered, and that's whether or not somebody is an introvert or an extrovert.
Mm-hmm.
Because extroverts that I've met, whether in the workplace or just anywhere else, they probably have a bunch of friends, and they probably, have acquaintances, whatever. But these people, even if they're in a relationship, they always tend to have a group of people around them, because that's like, I forgot how they phrase it,
That's
but it's
what I'm
like
saying.
that's
Do they
where
have friends or do they have acquaintances?
well, I mean, whatever the case may be, but the thing about it is they still have people. If they wanted to call on someone, like, let's just keep it real for a second. If I wanted to call on somebody and be super vulnerable and be like, something's going on, I don't know what to do, I could call my brother, but again, we don't really talk all the time. And, he lives in New Jersey, I live in Texas. So like the dynamic isn't what it used to be. I know I could, but it probably wouldn't be my first person I would call. Like, I don't really have anybody here in Texas that I would call. And the reason for that is that even though I do have one friend that likes to keep up with me, and she's an extrovert, that's an example, somebody who like makes the effort to call and connect and all that. And I haven't been able to really connect with her because I've been so busy. I sent her the invite to the wedding, and she said, hey, I hope that, we get to go eat because she would love to meet you. But it's just so crazy that me being an introvert, it's just not my priority to like have people in my life like that.
But I think you just answered our question of what is a friend. I mean, a friend is somebody that, like I said, you could call on when you need them, give them, and they're going to give you the advice. They're going to give you what you need, what's going to happen. This is what you need to do. I'm here for you to listen. Like the guy said yesterday on the show we watched, going to give it to you straight, going to celebrate when you're good, I'm going to give it to you straight when you're not doing good. To me, that's a friend. That's somebody, maybe you don't. So if you don't have that, then maybe, and if you're looking at the people that you call as your friends, if you don't have that with them, maybe they're not your what we would technically define as a friend. Maybe they used to be a friend, or they're family. Just because you're family don't mean you have to be friends. But a friend is somebody that you would trust with all your deepest, darkest, dirty secrets, and they're going to give it to you straight. They're not going to make fun of you. They're not going to talk about you behind your back. They're going to give it to you straight. They're going to pray for you, and that's the person you could call. Or you could talk to about anything and everything.
I agree with that. And I would also say, I would also say that, that's really interesting because before I met you, I've always had opportunities to have friends, I used to attend a 12-step program, met people there, met people at another place. Like I've always had an opportunity to have people around me, and I just always feel comfortable being in that. Like there'll be moments where I'll want to be within a group of people, but then it's like I'm always feeling better at home, and always making sure that my home life is something that's that's peaceful, that's healthy, and I have that with you. Because when you just mentioned the description of a friend, if I had to really sit down and be like, who do I have in my life right now that's like that, I would look at you.
Your spouse should be.
I would look at you. And I think bottom line is that we are best friends. And because we're in a healthy relationship, this reminds me of what Tony Gaskins said a while back in one of his videos. Shout out to Tony Gaskins, fantastic relationship coach. I can't say enough about how wonderful I think this guy has. Been following him for years. And he said in one of his videos that I saw years ago about how like he and his wife, they're a team, and she knows she can rely on him. He knows that they have each other's back. He's 100% faithful. Like he doesn't do anything to make her feel like she needs to seek friendship comfort somewhere else. It's like, she may have, she may go to brunch at some point, maybe once or twice a month with her friends, whatever. But when you're in a healthy relationship and you're sharing all this time together and you enjoy each other's company and you stimulate each other, and what he says, like his signature thing that he says is like making love to each other's mind, because believe it or not, guys, Matthew and I live together, and no, we are not having sex before marriage. So we'll touch on that topic another time. So it's like really making love to each other's mind and really solidifying that bond, honoring God. It's like, I don't really feel the need to just go out here and cultivate all these other types of relationships or friendships with other people.
Well, it's like, us being introverts, I like to always say I'm an extra introvert. But we handle quality over quantity.
Yeah.
That is, I would rather have one good friend than 100 associate friends.
Amen.
Whatever you'd say. I mean, even when I had Facebook, which I don't any longer, I would always make sure that the people I had on Facebook was people that I knew, I've talked to, and I had some kind of association with. Either I worked with them, went to school with them, or I knew them somehow, and they just wasn't this figment of out in Facebook land, somebody that I've never even met. Everybody on my Facebook feed I had met at one time and had some kind of association, friendship with. But so it's always kind of a thing, I would rather have quality over quantity.
100%.
But some people, I don't know, they may want quantity over quality. I don't know.
Who knows?
I mean, that's another question. What's more, 100 associates that you could call on at any time so you're never alone, or that one person you could call on? I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that is. I don't think there is an answer. I think it's to each person to decide what they would rather like, and I think that goes with the introvert extrovert thing too.
And something else that I wanted to say, when I think about my female friend here in Texas, that again, one of these days we have to go out to eat with her. If I were her being an extrovert and being so friendly and just such a lovely person, if I were her and I was assessing my friendship with me, Sarah, I would be questioning if we were really friends, because I would be like, wow, Sarah doesn't really reach out. She doesn't really, but I pray for her all the time. I love her, whenever I hear good news. So it's like, I have a feeling that she knows, and that she knows that I'm her friend regardless, you know, and I love her. But yeah, I just don't have that personality of wanting to reach out and, you know, connect. But I mean, I'm always going to pray for her. Like if something really goes out, if she were to call me right now and she was like, Sarah, my car's broken down, I don't know what to do. Like I'm getting in my car and I'm going to go get her. You know, like that's how I feel about it. But I'm not going to be that friend that's going to be communicating weekly and going out monthly. And it's just not me. And I guess I'm not saying she's thinking this, but I'm just saying if somebody were to consider me to not be a good friend because of that, I guess I don't think it's fair.
Well, I can see that, but any relationship you have to, and I learned this being the extra introvert I am. If you want to have friends, you got to put in the work. You know, we go to work every day because we want to get paid.
True.
What we get in return is we go to work. Do we like getting up that early? Do we like getting dressed? Drive an hour home, blah, 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 sitting in our cubicles. Do we like doing that? You know, I love my job. I love my career. But, you know, would I do that every day even when I'm sick? No, I do it because I get a paycheck at the end of the week. That's my return on investment. My investment is I go to work. I give them my 8, 10, 12 hours. They give me this much money at the end of every week. Same thing with me and you. You know, we invest in each other. We eat supper together. We go out on our date nights. We talk about things. We invest in each other because our return on investment is you're going to do the same for me. I'm there for you. You're there for me. We have a return on investment. I invest in you. You invest in me. That, you know, you keep the old 150 thing. Well, the same thing with friends, though. But sometimes us as introverts, we don't do that. It's like people always have to reach out to us. We don't reach out to them. Do you want to go out? No, I'll just stay at home in my PJs. Do you want to do it now?
It's like I would rather stay.
You know, I'm washing my white socks today. I can't go. But stuff like that, we always have an excuse. So, you know, they want to be friends with us. Like, I'm just thinking of your friend, not saying that you need to go out with her all the time. But your return on investment, you're going to get what you pay.
Yeah.
And you're not paying anything. So you're not going to get, I mean, she's giving everything. So it's like you got to give. You know, maybe the reason we don't have friends because we don't give. We don't pay. We don't get up and go to work. But then we wait. You know, we wonder at the end of the year why ain't we got any checks coming in because we don't get up and put the work in. And friendship is work. You have to do the calls. You have to do the going out. You have to cultivate that friendship. That's something else to think about too.
Yeah.
Speaking to the choir here because I don't do that.
I mean,
I don't have friends.
Well, you know what, baby? It is something to definitely pray about. And, you know, if this video gets to a point where people start to comment, I really hope to hear all of their feedback because I'm sure it's going to be great.
They have homework, remember. What is a friend?
What is a friend? Okay.
Do you think people that have had an intimate relationship can still be friends?
Okay.
And do you think people of the opposite sex can be friends if they are married / engaged?
And then my other question for the introverts out there, you know,
the extra introverts.
The extra introverts. I mean, do you think that somebody should deem you as not being a friend because you don't reciprocate the same way that, say, an extrovert would?
Good questions. Good things we have to think about because we need to define what a friend is. I mean, everybody's definition is going to be different. But I think it's time, you know, to sit down and define what do we see as a friend? What is a friend to us? And how do we be that to other people? Because God did not. I mean, he said that's the thing. If you read in Genesis, and we've talked about this, the first chapter of Genesis, everything God did, it is good, it is good, it is good, it is good. It is not good for man to be alone. That was the first thing that was not good. And he was talking about a spouse, but as humans, we reach. I mean, we want that. We want that people. We want people. I don't care if you're the extra introvert like I am. You stay at home every day and not talk to anybody. You go crazy. That's why people are going crazy during COVID.
True.
You need that companionship, and that comes with friends, and that comes with significant others.
You know, that reminds me of what the pastor told us when we went to one of our marriage counseling sessions, that he mentioned how important it was to have a network of friends, that he has his friends and his wife has her friends. And I also remember us talking to him about how difficult it was for us. You know, when church is over, Matthew and I are like practically tackling people to get out so we
We'll
can
knock grandma over to get out that door.
you know, and
We've stopped doing that.
yeah, it's
We have tried
we
to say hi.
admitted that we're uncomfortable with that, and he said that he and his wife were the same way. And you know, they've been married for 35 years, and through the years they've learned to be different, to be more open, to let people in. I would say that at church this past Sunday when we went and you asked me to speak to that girl that came in by herself and sat in front of us, and you know, God made it possible for me, because I thought I had lost my opportunity, but then I actually ran into her when I walked outside and was able to talk to her. That was different for me.
Yeah.
That was definitely outside of the comfort zone. So I mean, I'm grateful to God, I'm grateful to you for enabling that opportunity to happen. And you know what, maybe more will happen, and I don't know, maybe I'll learn to become a better friend.
Tell you what I want to do Sunday morning.
What?
I'm going to walk around the church
What?
and shake people's hands.
You're actually going to do that
We're
after
going to get
service?
there, or no, before. We're going to get
You're
there
gonna do
early.
that before.
And instead of sitting on the back row like I do with my arms crossed, hoping nobody comes and says hi, I am going to get up and I am going to walk around like the old brother Ken. What's his? I can't never remember his last name.
Pastor Ken Rogers.
Rogers, Mr.
Yeah.
Rogers. I'm going to get up. I'm going to be the second junior Ken Rogers. I'm going to walk around and shake everybody's hand twice.
Wow.
That's my goal.
Well, I am going to enjoy watching you do that, baby.
Okay. You got to push yourself, people. You got to push yourself.
Yeah, hopefully that girl will come back. And
God works out of the comfort zones.
true that.
He works out of the boat on the water.
True that.
So
True
if you're
that.
not uncomfortable, I believe you're. I don't know. I've always heard. I don't want to say this, because I don't like to say, but I've always heard, and I think it's true a lot of times. But if you're not uncomfortable, sometimes you're not doing what God wants you to do. Because what God wants you to do is most of the time uncomfortable. Look
Yeah.
at Moses.
Yeah,
Moses said, "I
true.
can't talk."
Yeah,
God said,
that's
"Okay, go
right.
talk to Pharaoh."
That's right. And remember when Paul asked for that thorn to be taken out of his side, and God was like, "No, because I will show my power in weakness." And this is definitely a weakness for me.
It is. So His power. So I believe you got to be a little uncomfortable if you're doing the will of God. All right, we're up to 30 minutes.
I know. This is the longest one we've had, and it's good. I'm glad you said all this, because then, it won't be just me holding you accountable to all the wonderful things that you said, my love.
Well, I don't know
But,
about that.
I definitely think this is something to pray about. And, I pray that God's will be done. If it's God's will for me to be friends with a bunch of people, then I pray that I be obedient when the opportunity presents itself.
That's all you have to pray is no matter what, doing the will of God, and He'll let that be known. But good night, Facebook land,
Facebook land,
or YouTube land, wherever we're at.
What?
Instagram land, TikTok land.
What? This is a podcast land. if
Podcast
anything.
land.
Yeah.
Well, I am old school child of the '80s, so leave me alone.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.